The rebel and their ally murdered the Ivorian people under the pretense that they wanted and could organize clean and transparent elections. 7 years just went by. Are we now in the dynamic of the elections they sought to organize at the price of the innocent victims' blood? Will the method proposed by the rebels, will it lead to national reconciliation and to the restoration of a lasting peace? How can the national and international observers back the preparation of a presidential elections in Côte d'Ivoire under these circumstances? Excellency, be as it may, the rebels have kept their weapon despite the fact that they are now government officials. The rebels are holding the people of Côte d'Ivoire hostage. Therefore, they are ruling as terrorists. What in the rebels' overall behavior is so right which may give any assurance of their sincerity and ability to organize the clean and transparent elections they are all bragging about? What is the guarantee of success? The electoral system proposed by the rebels was accepted by the people of Côte d'Ivoire because they had no choice. They were under duress. This stands true for all other decisions and agreements made with the rebels. Nowhere in the world, in France, in Germany, in the United States, in England, Italy, everywhere else, are elections held when part of a country is taken hostage, because the elected official cannot be fully operational if part of a country or part of a city or part of a region did not vote, take part to the vote. This is something that is not done and is not acceptable in other countries. Why is it acceptable? Why is it imposed to African people? So the decisions and agreements made with the rebels are standing on quicksand. And at this rate, indiscipline, disorder, and uncertainty will always reign as long as the rebels occupy part of the country and remain at their governmental positions. Therefore, Excellency, the rebels must go. The rebels must go if we are to organize clean and transparent elections in Côte d'Ivoire and start the reconstruction of the country. The rebels must go. Everywhere else, when someone's behaved like an outlaw, the police comes in to make an arrest, to restore peace, security, and justice. That's what the United Nations ought to do in the case of Côte d'Ivoire. We cannot accept the trend of instability that took place in other countries. Côte d'Ivoire has a tradition of peace. We welcome everybody. Everybody. At all time. There is no time to welcome people in Côte d'Ivoire. Just because we have an open heart doesn't mean that we have to accept every The rebels must go, Excellency. The rebels justify the mass killing by falsely claiming that thousands of people have been excluded from the 2000 presidential elections. Despite the inaccuracy of their claim and the insanity of their method of protestation, They are now the ones who are putting in place a pseudo-enrollment system to exclude millions of people from the process, hence preparing the way for further social unrest and unnecessary chaos. There is no hope in dealing with the rebels on the administrative level because they cannot be trusted. Excellency, for many years the country of Côte d'Ivoire has been a peaceful oasis for everyone in the world. The normalcy in Côte d'Ivoire has been that whoever strives to become president, prime minister, or to hold any other elected position has to wait for his or her turn and advance to that position by way of democratic votes. This has been the school of thought in Côte d'Ivoire, and like many other political leaders and future presidential candidates, President Gbagbo has proven faithful to this tradition. In fact, since our independence in 1960, many qualified and morally healthy Ivorians have been waiting peacefully for their turn. This is mainly the reason why there was never a coup d'etat in Côte d'Ivoire until the same rebel came to spoil the presidency of Henri-Conan-Bédier, who took over constitutionally after the death of our first president, the late Félix Houphouët-Boigny. They spoiled the presidency of Henri-Conan-Bédier. This rebellion. The people who were involved in the boosting of President Henri-Conan-Bédier are still in this rebellion. Nothing was done to restore the value and the respectability of the value of democracy in Côte d'Ivoire. We had an agreement with the French government to protect our country. We'll come to that later. The fact that Côte d'Ivoire has the second largest basilica in the world is a strong testimony of our profound attachment to peace. The peaceful and brotherly behavior displayed by the majority of the Ivorian is a God-given grace. This is why we welcome everyone without discriminating anyone. In fact, the past 40 years of peace in Côte d'Ivoire prove that the typical Ivorian is non-violent, respectful, mindful of human life, and conscious of his or her honest contribution to the development of the country. In Côte d'Ivoire, we do not entertain certain ideas. We do not make certain threats. We do not cut people up with machetes. We do not rejoice at the sight of destruction. Neither do we wish the death of all our fellow human beings. It's a matter of principle. It's a matter of pride. It's a matter of dignity and honor. This is why Côte d'Ivoire has been a melting pot for so many Africans. Akwaba is a word that comes from Ghana. And in Côte d'Ivoire, we have so many Ghanaian descendants, just as we have many descendants from Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Liberia, Senegal, from all over the continent, even Lebanese. We know how to treat people because the Ivorian is proud of himself and of his country. The Ivorian is a true ambassador. Wherever we go, we would like to exhibit our nature and our culture, which is a culture of non-violence, culture of love and peace, solidarity. This is why in Cote d'Ivoire, many years we've had ministers in our government from different parts of Africa, even from other countries. So the violent and destructive behavior that led to the so-called war are totally foreign to the Ivorian culture. It has nothing to do with the Ivorian culture. This behavior were willfully introduced to bring about terrorism and trouble, and those who brought about the war in Cote d'Ivoire were totally out of their mind and need medical attention. Consequently, we cannot condone the disarrangement in immorality Mr. Sery-Ble and his Force Nouvelle rebels are committing. Whether Mr. Sery-Ble and the members of his Force Nouvelle were under the influence of some drugs, whether they were forced or corrupted while committing these odious crimes is irrelevant. They are adults. They are human beings. They have the ability to differentiate from the wild animals. So they are responsible for their actions. The fact that Cote d'Ivoire agreed to sign several resolutions with the rebels is also irrelevant. As I said earlier, these resolutions were signed under duress. It cannot happen in the United States, this country where everybody comes, this country that everybody wish to have, to be part of. It cannot happen in France, in England, everywhere else. Why is the United Nations allowing this? The rebel must be dealt with in accordance to their criminal actions. Whether they were mentally ill or not, this has to be assessed and they need to be dealt with in accordance to their criminal actions. There shouldn't be any double standard for terrorism. Excellency, there should not be any presidential elections in the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire until the national security and defense forces have been cleared from all former and current members of the Force Nouvelle. The defector is a disloyal military personnel. Therefore, he or she is not fit to serve in that capacity in his country anymore. Take, for instance, someone who picks up classified documents from the Pentagon and goes to sell it to another country. Or take, for instance, someone who goes to a grocery shopping because he's in military, who goes to a grocery store or to a school and does whatever he wants with his gun. Can he be reinserted? Can he be welcomed back at the Pentagon or in the French Legion or in the British Army? There shouldn't be any elections until the weapon used by the Force Nouvelle and their allies have been collected and entirely destroyed by the national security and defense forces. And that must be done under the supervision of the United Nations Special Forces. There shouldn't be any presidential elections in the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire until there is a new and well-structured independent electoral commission operating under the governance of the Supreme Court and the Constitutional Council. There shouldn't be any elections in Cote d'Ivoire until the enrollment and identification processes are conducted with the utmost respect, dignity, and integrity in Cote d'Ivoire and elsewhere. This must be done with a clear goal to generate a clean electoral listing, including at least 10 million eligible and legitimate Ivorian voters. Cote d'Ivoire has a population of over 17 million inhabitants. Holding clean and transparent elections implies that all legitimate citizens who are eligible to vote should be allowed to do so freely and voluntarily. No one should be denied the privilege to become a voter when he or she meets the requirement and wish to be a voter. There shouldn't be any election until the new electoral system has been thoroughly tested and found sufficiently reliable with the utmost degree of confidence. I talked about the several frauds and the efficiency of the system. We cannot organize a clean and transparent elections in this atmosphere, in these circumstances. Everything is bound to fail, because what has been done with the rebels belongs to the dumpster. It cannot be used to organize clean elections in Cote d'Ivoire. Worse yet, the French military snipers positioned themselves on top of the Hotel Ivoire in a vicious attempt to kill the democratically elected president. This is the certificate of aptitude of one of the snipers. They were found in the Hotel Ivoire. Some of them were on the 6th floor. And the Hotel Ivoire was about 100 yards away from the house of the president of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. Their strategic planning was recovered. Their computers were recovered, with the names of all the people who were targeted by this planned assassination. But their plan were thwarted on November 4th, 2004, by the patriots who gathered around the hotel to protest against the subversive and shameful attempt. These are the patriots, the young Ivorians who had in mind and at heart the preservation of the Republic, and not the preservation of someone's seats, but the preservation of our dignity, of our independence, of our sovereignty. They went empty-handed, singing for the liberation of our country, singing to abrogate, to annihilate this coup attempt. These are the armored vehicle of the French people, stationed by the Hotel Ivoire. And this here is a tank, the army tank of the French military. And again, this is a copy of a certificate of aptitude of a sniper, one of the snipers. The COTE-D'IVOIRE is a place where we say welcome to our guests. COTE-D'IVOIRE is a place where we say Apollo. It's a place of leisure. It's not a war fair. It's not a war ground. It's not a battleground. What are these doing here? Excellency, I trust that you can appreciate how far the condescendence and the Nazi-like arrogant posture of superiority displayed by the French have brought the country of France to the limit of idiocy. In Côte d'Ivoire, they've done it elsewhere and it succeeded. Not in Côte d'Ivoire. No. In fact, on November 12, 2004, the French military killed many unharmed young Ivorians. Who were just singing. They were shot by the French snipers. And I'll show you one of the examples. This is here. An Ivorian who has been shot by the French snipers. So people are defending themselves, defending democracy in their own country. Defending democracy in their own country. And they're being killed and butchered by the French. We don't know who brought about this. But whenever there is instability, coup, this is what we see in Côte d'Ivoire, in Africa. The first time we saw this in Côte d'Ivoire, in Yopougon and up in the western part of Africa, of Ivory Coast. We don't need this in Côte d'Ivoire. We don't need this in Africa. People have rights. They deserve to live their lives. Was this a plot? Was this a planned killing? Whenever there is instability, this is what happens. France cannot sit at the Security Council to talk about the crisis in Côte d'Ivoire. They will be called to order and they will be held accountable for what they did in Côte d'Ivoire. They would have to pay up for what they did in Côte d'Ivoire. This is unquestionable, it is not negotiable, and it has to be done. You do not come to someone's country and destroy their youth, their lives. You do not. No Ivorian has ever been to France and done this. No. No Ivorian cannot even entertain that. For France to do this, regardless We are in our country. If you cannot help us maintain peace, you ought not to kill our people. These are the witnesses. There are many witnesses of what happened. There is no way of negotiating, of denying. Excellency, let it be written in the annal of the United Nations that these atrocities I just mentioned, these atrocities were perpetrated during the 21st century by the great country of liberty that France claimed to be. France is not fit to take part in any discussion related to the resolution of the crisis in Côte d'Ivoire, and France must definitely be called to order. To that end, let it be written in the annal of the United Nations that the fate of Côte d'Ivoire and that of its people are not in any way, shape or form related to that of France. France is just a simple country in the entire universe, a region where a group of people resides. They have no authority over the people of Africa. They have no authority over the people of Côte d'Ivoire, and that must be understood. The one who has authority over us is God, the creator of heaven and earth and everything that's in it. The one who has authority over us is his beloved Son, who came that whosoever believe in him shall not perish, whose blood was shed for our salvation. France must learn to respect the authority, the sovereignty, and the independence of other countries. Let it be written in the annal of the United Nations. Excellency. For the country of Côte d'Ivoire is an independent and sovereign state. Therefore, the country of Côte d'Ivoire has a right to choose and to establish any diplomatic trade agreement with any country in the world that respect its independence, sovereignty, and value, noble and honorable moral standard. We have a right to go to any state, any country, to sign a deal with them. The country of Côte d'Ivoire is not the property of France. The United States has 50 states. Dealing with one single state can help us in many ways. So let the French understand it. We do not impose to them any way of life. Let it be understood. We have never instigated any coup d'etat in France, because we believe that coup d'etat are similar to criminal act of terrorism. There is no difference, and it's not in our nature. We will gain more by welcoming everybody in our country and by maintaining what we have gained since our independence.